So you guys, as the days are starting to get hotter and hotter, it has got me obsessed with making sure that even if I'm sweating, I'm still smelling really good. And recently, I started to use this video's sponsor, Scentbird, and I want to tell you guys all about it since it has literally changed the game. Now, don't get me wrong, I always want to smell like rose petals and daisies, but my bank balance sure as hell doesn't, since all of these fragrances always come in huge perfume bottles. But with Scentbird, you can try 500 different perfumes for just $17 a month. Each month, you will receive a box of different perfumes to try out that come in these pretty little 8ml vials. So I'm sure you're all dying to know what I've been trying out this week, and well, for this month, the perfumes I received were Silhouette by Christian Serrano, Lovely Sweet Dreams by Dime Beauty, and my favorite scent that I got was Sugarful by Michael Germain. With Scentbird, you can really develop a deeper connection with perfumes, which is something I never thought I would have done 5 years ago. By just paying $17 a month, you can pick whichever perfumes you want to try out. These samples from Scentbird will give you a 30-day supply, so you don't have to splash out hundreds of dollars on a huge bottle to risk not actually liking the scent. And if you're not sure what to try or you don't really know that much about perfume, never fear, since there is a super helpful quick quiz that you can take before you even subscribe. Just click the link in the description to get started and use the code UNCOVERED to get 55% off your first month at Scentbird. That's literally just $7. And I'm sure y'all will love Scentbird as much as I do.
You have a tell when you're not telling the truth, and your tell is that you laugh or you smile because you're uncomfortable.
Actually, I laugh at every single thing. So
and it's just when you're uncomfortable.
No, I just laugh at everything.
At what point in the interrogation do you confront the suspect about their dishonesty? In the case of Eli LeBron's murder, 2 different suspects required 2 different interrogation tactics. These are Marquis Hamilton and Jaria Shield. In July 2020, they were both arrested in connection to Eloy's murder. But were both of them guilty? And what led them to take an innocent life in such a brutal way? We'll explore these questions and many more in today's video. Today's story takes place in a city we've visited before, Orlando, Florida. Above all, Orlando is known for its spectacular Disney resorts and Universal Studios. People from all over the country gather here to see their favorite characters or do any activity they fancy. Orlando has it all, but Orlando has a darker side too. It has a violent crime rate of 44.1. when the national average in the United States is 22.7, and its property crime, 81, with a national average of 35.4. Yeah, one might say Orlando is not the safest place to live. But it's not like everyone gets to choose where they live. If that's where you were born and your whole life is there, why move? Plus, looking at other murder rates online can make any city look scary. That is not to say life in Orlando is inherently unsafe. Eloy LeBron's life certainly wasn't. Eloy was a 41-year-old Orlando resident who worked as a flight attendant. He hadn't had any run-ins with the law or the lawless in his life.
And everybody that knew him and got to know him enjoyed to be with him. And he cared about his family and pretty much everybody.
Eloy was a happy-go-lucky guy with lots of friends, and he was really close to his mom. You can see the two of them together in just about 1 million cute pictures. Eloy had moved to Orlando back in 2018 to be close to his family after he'd suffered an injury. Eloy's cousin, William Morales, remembered him.
He touched all of our hearts and our lives in ways that it's in unsurpassable amounts.
The family of 41-year-old Eloy LeBron. Telling News 6, Thursday evening, officers knocked on their door, telling them LeBron had been killed.
It wasn't just another number, somebody who succumbed to the unfortunate events that are happening in the world we live in today. He was a very good person.
Touching words. And William is right. When someone gets killed, they're not just a number. Imagine how many lives are forever scarred by such a sudden, tragic event. On July 23, 2020, Eloy lost his life in the blink of an eye. He never got to say goodbye to his family because he wasn't expecting to go like this. But it wasn't his family who called 911 that night. It was a woman reporting gunshots from nearby her home.
What are you calling about?
Gunshots, multiple.
Did you see anything suspicious or you just heard it?
No, ma'am, just hearing it.
Okay. How many did you hear?
Oh, man, it's about 8 or 10, if not more. Like this AK-47, it's not a 22, I can assure you.
Within minutes, the police made it to a horrifying scene. Eloy was inside his own white Toyota, but he was long gone. He'd been shot multiple times, and the inside of his car was the stuff of horror movies. His brother was still alive. He'd ducked down to avoid the bullets, but he witnessed the worst thing imaginable. He was inches away from his brother's body, frozen in shock. That night, the detectives knew they had to pursue Elon's killers ASAP. The longer time they gave them, the further away they could get. So they tracked all the surveillance footage from the area, and soon enough they got 2 suspects, Marquis Hamilton and Jaria Shield, both of them 19 years old. CCTV footage showed a white Saturn driving away from the murder scene. Another street camera showed the same car parking in front of an apartment complex and the 2 suspects getting out of the car. As it turns out, Marquis and Jaria lived together at the apartment complex. It was pretty obvious the police had to interrogate both women. But as they were getting warrants for their arrests, the detectives also contacted a woman who was related to both suspects called Jamiah. She was around the same age as the suspects, was preparing for med school, and spent a lot of time with Marquis and Jaria. She was interrogated by a female detective who took on a pretty confronting attitude from the get-go.
So when you got up yesterday morning, what time was it?
Like 10.
And you had to be there at 11, you clocked in at 11:02,
So yeah,
right?
I woke up at 10. Yeah.
And the girls were not home. And as you sit here today, swearing to tell the truth so you don't get in trouble, you're saying you do not know where they were.
No.
Or whose house they were at, but you're telling me the car was not at home.
Jamiah insisted she didn't know where her friends were that morning or where they'd been the night before, but the detective clearly didn't believe her.
Someone in that vehicle murdered someone yesterday.
Somebody in the vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
It seemed like this was the first time Jamiah was hearing this information.
What did they murder?
Do you understand how serious this is now?
Yeah. But, like...
Do you understand the consequences for lying to the police in a homicide investigation as a third-degree felony?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you understand how difficult it is to get into medical school with a third-degree felony?
With any charges, it's hard.
It's very
Especially
difficult.
one tied to murder.
It's very difficult. Medical schools don't look too kindly upon that.
Mm.
You were with these girls all day and all night.
Yeah.
And
Well, not really, because I was at work in the mornings.
mm-hmm.
This all might seem pretty harsh, but the detectives knew what she was doing. She could tell Jamiah got uncomfortable because she was hiding something.
I'm confused, that's what I'm talking about.
You have a tell when you're not telling the truth, and your tell is that you laugh or you smile because you're uncomfortable.
Actually, I laugh at every single thing, so...
And it's just when you're uncomfortable.
No, I just laugh at everything.
And why is that?
I don't know, that's just how I am. I just laugh and smile.
Well, I can tell you that the person who was murdered's family is not laughing and smiling today.
Oh no, I'm not laughing and smiling at that. That's
Okay.
not.
This is super serious,
I
Jamiah.
know it is.
Super serious.
As the detective pressed the women about her relationship with Marquis and Jaria, she had a pretty standard suspect response.
You guys are all the same age, approximately?
But we're not really like that close.
By distancing themselves from the suspect, another suspect might try to appear less guilty. Detectives know that, so they tend to be suspicious when they hear this argument.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, because you expect me to know everything. We're not really like...
Not everything, but is it every day that your family is involved in homicide?
No.
Okay, if you want to sit here and tell me and make me believe that you don't know who your cousin and your sister and your cousin are dating, which I find very hard to believe, especially since your sister is possibly pregnant by this guy, I find very hard to believe. That I didn't anticipate you lying
I
about.
mean, because they don't really like... it's not like they really in a relationship because
You don't have to be in a relationship to be pregnant by someone.
Apparently, the police had already tracked Marquis to a man's house, someone Marquis was dating at the time. So when Jamiah claimed she didn't know where Marquis was, they suspected she was covering for her sister or the man.
How do we know this and you don't? She's with him right now. She stayed the night with him last night. You're telling me I know more about her relationship than you? That's ludicrous. I don't expect you to know everything. I do expect you to know things that girls talk about, like who you're dating, who might have gotten you pregnant, and I don't know, who might have murdered someone in my car.
Jamiah insisted she didn't know who fired the gun or who died, and that her sister and cousin never told her anything. But meanwhile, different interrogations were happening in adjacent rooms. At the same time, a detective was talking to a witness who claimed to see both the driver and the passenger shoot at the victim. However, he said he thought both shooters were male.
So,
Tinted windows.
tinted windows, and then this car cut a right.
Two-door pickup.
Yeah, two-door pickup. This car cut a right, and then you said
He
it
cut him off. He cut him off.
cut the truck off.
Right, and was shooting. And he was steady shooting. But he was steady, when he's turning, he's shooting. And he kept going, shooting, and stuff.
Point to where he was shooting at.
He started right here. He started shooting right here, over this way. The passenger, it's like he goes like that, and he was shooting like that.
Would you say his head's above the hood?
A little.
But he's more like...
Right.
Okay.
Right.
His arm shooting over the top of the vehicle.
Over the top of the car. I think he could have shot the other guy in the hand, you know what I mean?
Okay.
The way he was
shooting.
Yeah.
The witness gave a super accurate rendition of what happened that night. He just made one big mistake. There weren't any men shooting.
How dark was the tent, would you think? If there, was there even any tent?
Yeah.
The witnesses had all the good intentions, but sadly, his story involving two male shooters led the police down a roundabout path. The detectives started looking at all the men in Jaria and Marquis' life, thinking they were just covering for the men. So when Marquis was brought over for questioning, she was simply a witness in the eyes of the police.
Did Detective Overfield explain to you why you're here?
No.
He did not?
No.
Okay. And this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. It's just a lack of communication, okay?
What he did was come to my mom's job
Okay.
and tell her that my phone was released and I can go pick up my phone. But I told my mom, that don't sound too right, or whatever. So like 10 minutes later, they come bum rush the house I was at. Let me come outside out I want. That was it.
Marquis low-key complained of police harassment, claiming it was a disproportionate reaction on behalf of the police to grab her from the man's home like that.
My thing was,
Flip the
like you
switch.
said, you close with my mom, right? Y'all could talk about anything. He could have came to my mom and said, your daughter got a warrant for her arrest.
Be done with it.
And it could have been done with it.
Turn it in.
Turned it in just like that. But he gonna go lie to my mom, tell me to pick up my phone. When I already knew I probably had a warrant for my arrest because y'all not giving anybody no their phones back. And I could care less about the phone. I bought me a new phone.
I'm sure
It's materialistic. I don't care about the phone.
But that led you to believe.
I knew I probably had a warrant, but my thing was, why would you lie? Just all that could have been
Avoided.
avoided.
Yeah, just be straight with me.
Do you notice how different this detective's approach is compared to the first one?
Just keep it. I'm grown, just like you. You could just told me I
Keep
got
it
a
real.
warrant.
Keep it real. Just be honest. Tell us what happened and we'll be done with it. We'll walk away.
This detective was most likely employing the read technique. This is designed to get the suspect to trust the detective as they empathize with their situation at the beginning of the interrogation. That way, when the cop asks for the truth, the suspect is more likely to open up, believing the detective is on their side and will work with them to get a lighter sentence. This might sound a bit manipulative, but here's the thing. The interrogation is dated September 17th, 2020. This was almost 2 months after Eloy was killed. The police were desperate to find their killer.
So we have been working this for 2 months now. It'll be 2 months. In a couple days, it'll be 2 months. This family is desperate. They need answers. They want to know what happened.
I understand, but it's like y'all want me to admit to something that I don't know. I told y'all what I know. I told y'all what I was doing over there. It's like y'all want me to just say I was shooting, which I was not shooting. I never pulled a trigger in a day of my life.
Shockingly enough, the detective openly agreed with her innocence claim, and she brought Jaria up as well.
But you know, I looked at you and said, I know you didn't.
Of course, you said I didn't.
And I looked at Jaria and I said, I know you didn't. Because girls don't do that. Girls don't have beef like that.
Mm-mm.
If you do, you're gonna go to scrapping.
Yeah, you're right.
You're gonna get on social media and sell each other out. That's what girls do.
The funny thing is when you learn Marquis pulled out her gun and shot Eloy in cold blood.
Tonight, a family wants answers after the death of this 41-year-old man. Police say he was found shot in his car in the middle of the day along Anderson Street in Orlando.
As months passed and all the suspects acted like they knew nothing, the police and Eloy's family alike grew impatient. Eloy's loved ones appeared on TV begging anyone who knew anything to come forward.
We want this to stop. It's enough what we're going through. So please, I beg, if you guys seen anything, know anything, they don't have to say names. All they have is to call.
So by the time the detective was interviewing Marquis in September, she knew she had to press her toward a confession, even though she believed Marquis was only protecting someone. The best way to press someone? Bring up evidence.
The evidence is super strong against the occupants of that vehicle. Do I think it was you and Jaria? God, I pray to the Lord that you girls wouldn't go over there and shoot up that damn street. I pray to God. But 2 people shot from that car. The car that you own, the car that we recovered. 2 people shot from that car. And yes, we can prove that. And I'm not bullshitting you, or you would not be sitting here.
How can you prove it?
You will see through testimony and evidence that that came from that car. Okay?
Marquis pressed the detective back for proof of the evidence. But if a suspect knows what the police know, they can just concoct a story to justify the evidence. This is why detectives never reveal exactly what they know and how they know it.
Is the evidence strong against the 2 of you for murder? Yes. It's super strong, or you would not be sitting here. And your cousin is going to be occupying this seat shortly. It's bad for both of you. Do I think either one of you were the actual trigger people? I would be very, very surprised, and I've been doing this 10 years. I just can't see the animosity in your heart or in your cousin's heart. You girls are working girls. You have jobs, you both want to go, you're going to school or you want to go to school, and you have futures, you have plans, you have things that you're doing.
Why did the detective insist so much on believing Marquis was innocent? Her explanation was that both Marquis and Jaria had jobs and plans to go to college. The only felony Marquis was caught with was buying and smoking, but the dealer was one of the girl's boyfriends, so the detective even let that go.
They're your boyfriends, we understand that. We know where Brandon was.
Mm-hmm.
We verified his alibi. We know from your phone exactly where you were. That's why we kept your phone. But your testimony just backed up what your phone already told us. Okay, what you told us, we checked your phone backed you up. You were there. You were there when the shots rang out. We know that. In fact, you and Jaria had such specific information, very, very detailed information about what happened. You couldn't have been anywhere else. You had to have been there when it occurred. You had to have been there when those shots were fired, because you both knew too much.
But Marquis simply said, even though she was there, the shots weren't fired from her car. She even justified it in a very logical way.
Why would I jeopardize everything I got for some boys that who knows I'll be with 10 years from now?
Correct.
I'm in love with my boyfriend. Like you said, mine was at work.
Exactly. Except Marquis was lying through her teeth. Here's what happens to Marquis' body language when the detectives start to catch on.
So maybe I'm misreading you.
I think I'll pull the trigger.
Maybe I'm misreading you.
For another
maybe both you girls are much more badasses than I ever imagined.
I was always taught if somebody can't do it themselves, why would I be doing it? I ain't finna do nobody dirty work. I got that much sense. I'm not doing nobody dirty work.
Unless it's for yourself or your cousin.
Did you notice her constant rocking back and forth? This is a classic coping mechanism for people in very stressful situations. She began self-soothing when she realized she was cornered.
You think we the one who did it?
100%. 100%. This is why we argue. This is why I asked Detective Sharp to come in the room, because we argue. Because you don't want to see Detective Overfield and I argue.
Let me tell you something. My thing is, I wouldn't put my hand out to know I wouldn't put my hand out to shoot nothing. This gonna identify me off real. I got a tattoo that's gonna identify.
Marquis said that her sleeve tattoos would have had her identified much sooner if she was actually guilty. But in explaining this to the detective, she made a huge mistake.
Either way it goes, if I shot my hand this way or through the pattern, I got something that's going to identify, and I cannot deny these tattoos.
But one of her tattoos was brand new, almost as if designed to cover her tracks. And did you notice how she raised her arm just like the witness did earlier? Here's the funny part. When the detective mentions her shooting over the hood of the car, she doesn't even deny it.
But you didn't have them before.
I had this one before. Yes.
Not when you stuck that one out the window over the hood of the car. You did not have that.
I did not have this one, no.
Correct. So it wouldn't identify you.
This hand whenever was on
what you just did over the roof of the car like that, shooting, you did not have that tattoo.
Way to go, Marquis. Finally, the detective had a theory.
I imagine you girls had a beef with this boy. I guess, you know, and sometimes experience is not, my experience is why I say what I say, okay? But sometimes experience is just, maybe some of the newer detectives are just closer to the streets than I am because I'm older. I tend to read people, but you guys are a new generation. Apparently, my experience is making me argue on your behalf, and maybe it's because of my connection to your mom.
The detective came clean. She was wrong all along to assume Marquis was innocent just because she was a young woman. The other detective even gave Marquis a chance to admit to involuntary manslaughter. Her running theory, Marquis would have wanted to send a message and scare Eloy, not kill him. After all, someone shooting over the hood of their car while driving it wouldn't actually expect to hit someone's head in another moving car.
Clearly, you didn't even know him unless it was some type of road rage incident and maybe he did something and pulled a weapon on you. I don't know. Only you would know that. But I don't think any of the shots that were fired because of how they were out of a moving vehicle at a moving target, people don't think they're going to hit. It's more of a warning, sending a message. If that's the case, you need to say that, because that can make a big difference between what happens if we leave it like it is, or it goes forward with you saying that. And
I understand, but it was no shots fired.
By now, Marquis was given a million chances. The first detective asked her if Eloy had wronged her in any way, if someone forced or influenced her to kill, and gave her an opportunity to talk in her defense. Then the other detective asked her if she just wanted to threaten Eloy and not intend to kill. Few suspects get that many chances at a lighter sentence. All Marquis had to do was talk, but she maintained her innocence.
Y'all want me to admit to something I did not do?
Never want you to admit to anything you didn't do, but here's the thing. You have to understand, from our standpoint, we have all this evidence, witnesses, GPS locations, video, all of these things.
Do you guys have a gun?
Showing that it did come out of that car.
Honestly, the audacity. When Marquis asked to end the interrogation, the detective did, but she had one last request from her. Maybe an apology for Eloy's family? Marquis simply said that giving an apology would be admitting to the murder.
Sorry for their loss.
But not for any responsibility that you might have had in that, I guess.
I don't have no responsibility in it.
None?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Jaria's interrogation was much shorter and started with a lot of attitude.
And y'all pulled me over. Y'all slammed me on the ground, so y'all should be talking to me.
Okay, they're gonna get to you.
Ain't no, they need to get to me now. I've been here since 12 o'clock.
Okay, I'll relay the message.
Just like Marquis, Jaria was on a high horse. She acted as though she was the victim in this situation, kept by the police to wait for over an hour when she was innocent. When the detective started the interrogation, Jaria described in great detail how she wanted to be a sniper for the military and how this meant she wanted to do the right thing. She believed in justice. The detectives were not impressed by her story.
Did you girls shoot at him?
No. No. I ain't that. No.
Why is it that folks are telling us that the gunshots came from your car?
Mm-hmm.
That all of the gunshots, and believe me, there was more than 5 to 7, came from your vehicle.
Never owned a gun, never touched a gun, never even shot a gun.
Did you loan the car to someone?
No.
Did Jaria?
I can't tell you what she did.
Marquis and Jaria maintained their innocence up until the very end. Here's what the warrant for their arrests states. The Saturn drove by Tacoma, then made an immediate U-turn. After the shooting, the Saturn sped off and drove the wrong way on a one-way road, where it almost crashed head-on into a white work truck with two brothers inside. Records show how the Saturn had to swerve into parking spaces to avoid the crash. Both women were arrested and charged with manslaughter with a firearm. Reportedly, they have been released on bail and are awaiting their trials. But just as Eloy's cousin said, Eloy was not just a number on the Orlando murder rate list, or any list for that matter. He was a person with a life, and it's heartbreaking to think his life was taken in just a second just because he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Just because two deeply troubled girls were out for blood. Hey guys, thanks a bunch for watching. Write us a comment and let us know your thoughts on this case. What other outrageous interrogations do you know about? Before you leave, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that bell button so you never miss a new episode. On to the next time. Guys, if you want to smell just as good as me this summer, y'all should check out today's sponsor, Scentbird. Just click on the link in the description to get started and use the code UNCOVERED to get 55% off your first month at Scentbird. That's literally just $7. And I'm sure you'll love Scentbird as much as I do.